To Karras, it suddenly seemed unreal. Key Bridge, motor traffic, across the river, the hot shop with frozen milkshakes, and beside him a movie star asking for an exorcism. As he stared at her, groping for an answer, she slipped off her oversized dark sunglasses, and Karras felt a wincing shock at the redness, at the desperate pleading in those haggard eyes. And suddenly realized that the woman was serious. "Father Karras, it's my daughter," she pleaded. "My daughter." "Then all the more reason," he said to her soothingly, "to forget about getting an exorcism and—" "Why?" Chris suddenly burst out in a voice that was cracking and strident and distraught. "Tell me why. God, I don't understand." Karras took hold of her wrist in an effort to calm her. "In the first place," he told her, "it could make things worse." Incredulous, Chris scrunched up her face and said, "Worse?" "Yes, worse." "That's right. Because the ritual of exorcism is dangerously suggestive. It could implant the notion of possession where it didn't exist before, or if it did, it could tend to fortify it. But, and secondly, Karras overrode her. Before the Catholic Church approves an exorcism, it conducts an investigation to see if it's warranted, and that takes time. In the meantime, couldn't you do it yourself?" Chris's lower lip was slightly trembling now, her eyes filling up with tears. "Look, every priest has the power to exorcise, but he has to have church approval, and frankly, it's rarely ever given, so can't you even look at her?" "Well, as a psychiatrist, yes, I could, but she needs a priest." Chris cried out suddenly, her features contorted with anger and fear. "I've taken her to every goddamn, fucking doctor, psychiatrist in the world, and they sent me to you. Now you send me to them. But Jesus Christ, won't somebody help me?" The heart-stopping shriek bolted roar above the river, sending startled flocks of birds shooting up into the air from its grassy banks with a sound of cawing and 1,000 flapping wings. "Oh my God, someone help me!" Chris moaned as, sobbing convulsively, she crumpled to Karras's chest. "Oh, please help me. Please, please, help." The Jesuit looked down at her, and then lifted up comforting hands to her head as the riders in traffic-locked automobiles glanced out windows to watch them with passing disinterest. "It's all right," Karras told her. He wanted only to calm her, to stem her hysteria. "My daughter?" No, it was Chris who needed psychiatric help, he believed. "It's all right. I'll go see her," he told her. "I'll see her right now. Come on, let's go." With that sense of unreality still lingering, Karras let her lead him to the house in silence and with thoughts of his next day's lecture at the Georgetown Medical School. He had yet to prepare his notes. As they climbed the front stoop, Karras glanced at his watch. It was 10 before 6. He looked down the street at the Jesuit residence hall as he realized he would now miss dinner. "Father Karras?" The priest turned to look at Chris. About to turn her key in the front door lock, she had hesitated and turned to him. "Do you think you should be wearing your priest clothes?" she said. Karras eyed her with a pity that he tried to conceal. Her face and her voice, how helplessly childlike they were. "Too dangerous," he told her. "Okay." Chris turned back and started opening the door, and it was then that Karras felt it, a chill, tugging warning. It scraped through his bloodstream like particles of ice. "Father Karras?" He looked up. Chris had entered. For a hesitant moment the priest stood unmoving, then slowly and deliberately, as if he had made a decision to do so, he went forward, stepping into the house with an odd sense of ending. Karras heard commotion. Upstairs. A deep, booming voice was thundering obscenities, threatening in anger and in hate and frustration. Taken aback, he turned to Chris with a look of wonderment. She was staring at him mutely. Then she moved on ahead. He followed her upstairs and along a hall to where Carl was standing with his head bent low over folded arms just opposite the door to Regan's bedroom. At this close range, the voice from the bedroom was so loud that it almost seemed amplified electronically. As Carl looked up at their approach, the priest saw bafflement and fright in his eyes as in an awed and cracking voice he said to Chris, "It wants no straps." Chris turned to Karras. "I'll be back in a second," she told him, the words coming dully from a worn-out soul. Karras watched her as she turned and walked away down the hall and then into her bedroom. She left the door open behind her. Karras turned his glance to Carl. The houseman was staring at him intently. "You a priest?" he asked. Karras nodded, then looked quickly back to Regan's bedroom door. The raging voice had been abruptly displaced by the long, strident lowing of some animal that might have been a steer. Something prodding at Karras's hand. He looked down. That's her, Chris was saying. That's Regan. She was handing him a photograph and he took it. Young girl. Very pretty. Sweet smile. That was taken 4 months ago, Chris said dreamily. She took back the photo and motioned with her head at the bedroom door. Now you go and take a look at her now. Chris leaned back against the wall beside Carl, and with her eyes cast down, her arms folded across her chest, she said hopelessly and quietly, I'll wait here. Who's in there with her? Karras asked. Chris looked up at him, expressionless. No one. The priest held her haunted gaze and then turned with a frown to the bedroom door, and as he grasped the doorknob, the sounds from within abruptly ceased. In the ticking silence, Karras hesitated, then slowly entered the room, almost flinching backward at the pungent stench of moldering excrement that hit his face and his nostrils like a palpable blast. Reining in his revulsion, he closed the door and then his eyes locked, stunned, on the thing that was Regan, on the creature that was lying on its back on the bed, head propped against a pillow while eyes bulging wide in their hollow sockets shone with mad cunning and burning intelligence, with interest and with spite, as they fixed upon his. As they watched him intently, seething in a face shaped into a skeletal mask of unthinkable malevolence. Karras shifted his gaze to the tangled and thickly matted hair, to the wasted arms and legs and distended stomach jutting up so grotesquely, then back to the eyes. They were watching him, pinning him, shifting now to follow as he moved to a desk and chair near the large bay window. Karras fought to sound calm, even warm and friendly. Hello, Regan, he said. He picked up the chair and took it over by the bed. I'm a friend of your mother's, he said, and she tells me that you're very, very sick. Karras sat down. Do you think you'd like to tell me what's wrong? He asked. I'd like to help you. Regan's eyes gleamed fiercely, unblinking, as a yellowish saliva dribbled down from a corner of her mouth to her chin, to her lips stretched taut into a feral grin of bow-mouthed mockery. Well, she gloated sardonically and hairs prickled up on the back of Karras's neck at a voice that was deep and thick with menace and power. So it's you, they sent you, she continued as if pleased. Well, we've nothing to fear from you at all. Yes, that's right, Karras answered. I'm your friend and I'd like to help you. You might loosen these straps, then, Regan croaked. She had tugged up her wrists so that now Karras noticed they were bound with a double set of leather restraining straps. Are the straps uncomfortable for you? Extremely. They're a nuisance. An infernal nuisance. The eyes glinted slyly with secret amusement. Karras saw the scratch marks on Regan's face, the cuts on her lips where apparently she'd bitten them. I'm afraid you might hurt yourself, Regan, he told her. I'm not Regan, she rumbled, still with that taut and hideous grin that Karras now guessed was her permanent expression. How incongruous the braces on her teeth looked, he thought. Oh, I see, he said, nodding. Well, then, maybe we should introduce ourselves. I'm Damien Karras. Who are you? I'm the devil. Ah, good. Karras nodded approvingly. Now we can talk. A little chat? If you wish. Yes, I would like that, Regan said, drooling a little from a corner of her mouth. However, you will find that I cannot talk freely while bound with these straps. As you know, I've spent much of my time in Rome and I'm accustomed to gesturing, Karras. Now then, kindly undo the straps. What precocity of language and thought, reflected Karras. He leaned forward in his chair with a mixture of amazement and professional interest. You say you're the devil? He asked. I assure you. Then why don't you just make the straps disappear? Come, that's much too vulgar a display of power. After all, I'm a prince. The prince of this world, as some very strange person said of me once. Can't quite remember who. A low chuckle. Then, I much prefer persuasion, Karras, togetherness, community involvement. Moreover, if I loosen the straps myself, I deny you the opportunity of performing a charitable act. Incredible, thought Karras. But a charitable act, he parried, is a virtue and that's what the devil would want to prevent. So in fact I'd be helping you now if I didn't undo the straps. Unless, of course, Karras shrugged. Unless of course you really aren't the devil, and in that case I probably would undo them. How very foxy of you, Karras. If only dear Herod were here to enjoy this. Karras stared with narrowed eyes and an even deeper interest. Was she punning on Christ's calling Herod, that fox? Which Herod? He asked. There were two. Are you talking about the king of Judea? No. I am talking about the Tetrarch of Galilee. Regan shot back at Karras in a voice raised to blast him with scorching contempt. Then abruptly she was grinning again as she quietly cajoled in that soft and sinister voice. There, you see how these damnable straps have upset me. Undo them. Undo them and I'll tell you the future. Very tempting. My forte. But then how do I know you really can read the future? Because I'm the devil, you ass. Yes, you say so, but you won't give me proof. You have no faith. Karras stiffened. Paused. No faith in what? Why in me, my dear Karras, in me? Something mocking and malicious danced hidden in those eyes. All these proofs, all these signs in the sky. Karras barely had a grip on his composure as he answered, well, now, something very simple might do. For example, the devil knows everything, correct? No, in fact I know almost everything, Karras. There, you see, they keep saying that I'm proud. I am not. Now then, what are you up to, sly fox? Spit it out. Well, I thought we might test the extent of your knowledge. Very well, then. How's this? The largest lake in South America, the Regan thing japped, her eyes bulging with mocking glee, is Lake Titicaca in Peru. Will that do it? No, I'll have to ask something only the devil would know. Ah, I see. Such as what? Where is Regan? She is here. Where is, here? In the piglet. Let me see her. Why, Karras, do you want to fuck her? Loose these straps and I will let you go at it. I want to see if you're telling me the truth. Let me see her. Very succulent cunt, Regan leered, her furred and lolling tongue licking spittle across dry, cracked lips. But a poor conversationalist, my friend. I strongly advise you to stay with me. Well, it's obvious you don't know where she is, Karras shrugged, so apparently you aren't the devil. I am. Regan bellowed with a sudden jerk forward, her face contorting with rage. Karras shivered as the terrifying voice boomed and crackled off the walls of the room. I am. Well, then, let me see Regan. That would prove it. There are much better ways. I will show you. I will read your mind. The Regan creature seethed furiously. Think of a number between 1 and 100. No, that wouldn't prove a thing. I would have to see Regan. Abruptly it chuckled, leaning back against the headboard. No, nothing would prove anything at all to you, Karras. That is why I love all reasonable men. How splendid. How splendid indeed. In the meantime, we shall try to keep you properly beguiled. After all, now, we would not wish to lose you. Who is, we? Karras probed with a quick, alert interest. We are quite a little group in the piglet, came the answer. Ah, yes, quite a little multitude. Later I may see about discreet introductions. In the meantime, I am suffering from a maddening itch that I cannot reach. Would you loosen one strap for a moment? Just one? No, just tell me where it itches and I'll scratch it. Ah, sly, very sly. Show me Regan and perhaps I'll undo one strap, offered Karras. That's providing she's